The most important factor in successful gardening is understanding what lies beneath the surface. Today we travel to the heart of Manhattan and meet with one of the world's leading authorities on soil ecology. You won't want to miss it, so stay tuned as we garden smart from New York.
The Safer brand organic lawn care program makes house calls. By ordering online, the lawn you want can be delivered right to your door. The Safer brand organic lawn care program is a proud sponsor of public television and GardenSMART.
I should be arrested for crimes against potted plant kind. My house is where plants came to die.
Miracle-Gro potting mix is designed to help grow big, beautiful plants. Everyone grows with Miracle-Gro.
Hey there, little Red Riding Hood. You sure are looking good.
In the heart of Manhattan, and nestled among some of its tallest buildings, is an urban paradise that brings nature right to the edge of a sea of steel and concrete. Battery Park City spans 92 acres along the Hudson River and was created by land reclamation from the World Trade Center and other construction projects. It features 36 acres of meticulous parkland that is maintained by the Battery Park City Authority and the Battery Park City Conservancy. It is the first public garden space in New York City to be maintained organically, and their commitment to sustainability and developing rich, vibrant soils for plants to thrive in has been rewarded handsomely, as Battery Park City has been recognized as one of the finest urban parks in the country. At the helm of this amazing endeavor is Eric T. Fleischer, or as his friends call him, T. T is a pioneer in sustainable gardening and has been at the forefront of innovations such as Compost tea that have made gardening in harsh urban conditions not only a possibility, but a place where plants thrive. Today we'll take a behind-the-scenes look at compost, soil ecology, and what you need to know to make your plants thrive with one of the world's foremost authorities on sustainable horticulture. T, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
T, you have a wonderful career, which is a unique marriage of soil ecology and urban park landscape management. How did you get from there to here?
Well, it's an interesting thing. I've always been interested in horticulture and the environment. I've always had an ecological focus on managing sort of our resources in a responsible way, the Earth's resources. I really got into the business through the back door, interestingly enough. My undergraduate degree is in music.
Wow.
I studied jazz, and I think they all sort of fit together, all these different disciplines, and interrelate. But I initially really my focus in how I moved in this business really came. A very big influence was Dr. Alex Shigo, who's the authority on tree anatomy.
Right.
And the way he looks at the tree as a system, I look at soils in a similar way. And so that's really how I really got into managing public spaces organically.
Great.
By looking at the systems and how they work.
All right. Now tell me, what would you want folks to know about Battery Park City? Give us kind of an overview.
Well, I think one of the most interesting aspects is that the initial urban plan was that within Battery Park City, 1/3 was to be designated public parkland. And so that brings community here, and it really promotes a community to live and work within the premises of Battery Park City.
Wonderful. And this is we're kind of on the foundations of the World Trade Center, right?
That's correct. It's one quarter of the fill that was Battery Park City is built on landfill, clean fill, which 1/4 of that came from when they excavated for the World Trade Center towers.
Wow. T, what's the role that compost plays in this park? I know that the community is very involved in unique ways from the standpoint of the soil that this park is grown on.
Well, it's a huge portion, huge part of it, because particularly since it is built on landfill, a lot of the time my career here over the past almost 24 years has been based on building a living soil system, and one that works the way a natural soil system would. So composting and feeding that natural nutrient cycling system in soils is incredibly important and key to how we manage the park system.
This is one of the more uniquely designed urban parks I've ever seen. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, well, this is Teardrop Park. It was designed by Michael Van Valkenburg and Associates. It's really a very interesting park in that it's designed with all its stone features. Like this is the ice wall, and you can see stone features throughout that really evoke the Hudson River landscape.
Right.
And that combines that with native plants that you would find within those environmental conditions. It works very well with our approach to landscape management. Managing it organically, leaving the leaves on the soil to decompose with diverse soil biology. So it works perfectly. It's a perfect marriage between design and function and maintenance.
One of the most important factors in being successful with any kind of gardening, whether it's a vegetable garden, ornamental garden, and especially in urban gardens where there's a lot of wear and tear, is understanding what's going on beneath the surface. Oftentimes we overlook the importance of correct composting, pH, air, water space, and consequently we end up with unsuccessful plants. What kind of tools do you use to make sure that your soil is developing the way that you want it to and that it's healthy?
Well, you're absolutely right, Eric. And in order to really do that and monitor it, we have to look below the surface.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, these are my main tools.
Right.
And it's a shovel and a soil probe. Taking a probe, getting that into the soil to really get a good idea of what's happening with the entire soil profile, get a sense that it's consistently moist, and also get a sense of what type of a soil material we're dealing with.
Right.
At the same time, using the shovel to really take a core sample, get a sense, because as we know, 60 to 75% of a plant's mass is below the surface of the soil.
Right.
And of course, nothing tells that story as much as this right here. That kind of root growth, we're going to be using less water and have a much more disease-resistant plant that is much more efficient in nutrients in the soil.
This is a very different section of the park. In fact, it feels in many ways that we're in a totally separate venue and we've been transported to the Irish countryside. Really nice.
Yeah, it does have a very unique, you don't feel like you're in the middle of New York City, do you?
No.
But this was a design build project. It was designed by Brian Toll, and it was designed to evoke the feeling of a farm that's been abandoned after the Irish potato famine. So you can see the potato furrows here, and it's just the old cottage. It gives you that feeling, that way that parts of Ireland looked like after the potato famine.
Yeah, it's very, very powerful. This is also a great site to talk about different kinds of soils. And we've got, say, the pastured meadowland here, and then that would have a certain type of soil. Behind us, the soils that typically would be behind a rock wall, and the soils that could work behind a rock wall are also a great example there.
Right. No, it's a good, perfect example. I mean, here we have a soil that people can walk on. It needs to take compaction, and of course we can use our trusty shovel to dig up a sample here and get a feeling from when we take a core out here. You feel this soil, and it just, you can't make a ball out of that. It just falls apart. You can feel that this is a real sandy soil.
Definitely.
And everybody, you can smell it. It has a certain feeling. You can tell so much from a site test like this as to what's in that soil. By comparison, we have the soil that's behind this wall. You have a whole different sense that, you pull this together, and you can actually make a very solid clump. You can see just by feeling this, and you can pull it out, how that holding together, that there's a lot more clay and silt in this soil.
Right.
So just by that, you can tell has a different smell, and you can make that, people can just make that assessment just by touch, feel, smell, and have a sense of how that soil will perform. Okay, so now we'll perform a perk test to see how quickly the water infiltrates in through the soil.
Good.
Fill the hole with water, your unit of measurement, and actually you let this hole drain, or you wait 15 minutes and then refill. And then from that point, you start measuring the amount of time it takes the water to infiltrate. And then you've seen from a site test, you've gotten textural analysis. Is it sand, is it clay? And how quickly does the water infiltrate through the soil medium?
It's a very important test, and it also, like you said, it tells us a lot about the drainage and the basic kind of soil that we're working with.
Exactly.
T, as a minimum, what would you consider the ideal percolation rate to be for good horticultural soil?
I would want to see a minimum of at least ½ inch per hour.
Gotcha.
Anything less than that, we're going to have too much water in the root system.
So in this case, we're going to come back in 15 minutes. We're going to look at our measuring stick, figure out how far it's gone down, multiply that times 4. Now we know how much water is percolated inside of an hour.
That's
correct. If we find that it's running too slow, then we can go back in with tilling sand, gravel, or some kind of additional drainage.
Right. It goes to really what you initially said at the beginning of the show. I mean, we sometimes forget soil should be 50% solids. Mm-hmm. That other 50% should be air and water.
Right.
And so we have to create that positive situation for organisms, roots, and beneficial microorganisms to grow through that soil and thrive. And that's the only thing that will really break through compaction zones is roots,
right,
in combination with that microbial activity. And we want to create the optimal environment for that to happen.
Probably the most challenging part of a municipal landscape is going to be the trees, and especially ones that are surrounded by pavers and asphalt. We've got this very small planter area here, maybe about 5 feet for the roots to grow in. Much larger space over there, and you see the difference in the size of the trees. Very
right. No, you can absolutely. I mean, here, even though it's a continuous planter, it's only 5 feet wide. Whereas over here, we have an area that's 25 feet wide. And it's clear as to what the relation is in terms of just soil volume, water availability, and nutrient availability. It's a very clear picture.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the community component of this part of the park. Mm-hmm. This is an area that's extensively used. We've got live workspace. We've got, of course, everyone walking through this beautiful esplanade. And how are you working to basically create a complete loop with the community?
Well, any urban park situation is challenging because of the amount of visitation. And I'd say we have in the neighborhood of between 20 and 25 million people passing through this park system a year.
Wow.
But again, utilizing the benefits of a community, it's very much set up as you might find a college campus within that. Within the landscape, are these residents. And we utilize that benefit of, the shops that are here. We collect compostable materials, herbaceous materials from the shops. From residents, as well as obviously from the landscape. Everything that comes out of this landscape is composted. Everything, the herbaceous materials, post and pre-consumer waste comes from the shops. That goes into our compost and feeds the compost, which goes back into the soil. Really creating a closed loop system within this community. So the more we're creating from the resources that are here, we don't have to bring in fertilizers and other materials from outside of the community.
Yeah, it's a wonderful picture of sustainability. Robert Wagner Park was one of the sections of Battery Park City that was most affected by the recent Hurricane Sandy that came through. And I want you to talk to us about how do you recover an area that has a huge encroachment of salt like you had and get it back into shape where we can now have this wonderful lawn that people are enjoying today.
Yeah, it's a very good point. We had about 8 times the amount of salt, soluble salts in these soils after Hurricane Sandy than what are acceptable. And I think if you remember, the reporting from that time was all from this park that reporting was happening. What we first did was we just flushed the soils, and we have sandy soils, so we were able to flush out a lot of those salts within about 2 weeks.
Wow.
Then on top of that, with the proper biological amendments, we're able to bring the biology back to where it should be. We chose not to do any type of other amendments because they would affect the biology detrimentally. So we really worked with flushing and then compost tea applications specific to what the needs were for this park. Another challenge here was that there was an ice skating rink set up here for the winter. And so once that came off, which was about 4 weeks ago, we had to quickly replace it with turf and get a quick rooting so that people could get back on this field and utilize it. As you can see, it's a heavily utilized landscape. So in this case, we can take a look at a sample here, and as you can see, we have about 4 inches of root development into the soil within 4 weeks.
That's amazing.
So we got really fast rooting, and we were able to reopen this public space as quickly as possible.
Do you think for some gardeners, compost is a somewhat generic term for just the pile of leaves that's breaking down and rotting? But the reality of the matter is, to make high quality compost, it looks a lot more like making a cake. There's a bunch of different ingredients and a lot of different factors that we've got to keep in mind, right?
And it's not complicated, really, as long as you have the right feedstocks. We have the material that all is generated from the park system, along with the post and pre-consumer waste that we collect from the community, and it all gets put in the right recipes into a mixture that in this case goes into this in-vessel unit or our earth flow system that goes through in about 20 to 25 days through the thermal process. We decant it. It's sort of a constant flow, decant it on the other side, and then we cure it in the curing bin for about another 20 days or so. We then collect it, take a sample to make sure it's the quality we want for what we need, and then either put it directly into the landscape or utilize it for a compost tea.
Let's talk about how we make a compost tea and what a compost tea really is.
Well, again, compost tea is really coaxing the beneficial organisms off of a high quality compost and into a water solution, and then feeding those microbes with the appropriate foods.
So you're basically just taking some of the finished compost. It's got all that wonderful bacteria, fungus, all the good stuff going on, putting it into like a tea bag, if you will.
It's an infusion.
Right. So you're soaking it in water,
and
then you're giving it some food, some
so that they'll
sugars.
multiply.
Right.
And you're really engineering it so that you're getting the organisms that you need to balance the environment, the soil environment.
Wonderful. So you talk about testing the compost and testing the compost tea. Let's go take a look at your lab and learn how you do that.
Yeah, let's do that. Well, Eric, what we have here is really the heart of the program. Adam is now verifying the quality of the compost and the compost tea to ensure that, one, from the compost, we have the organisms we need to balance the particular issues in the soil. And then secondly, that we have the quality that we're hoping to get in the tea.
So part of what you have to do as the scientist in this role is understand what you're actually looking at, because you're seeing all different sizes and shapes and moving things.
Exactly, and so here we see nematodes, which would be the longer worm-like looking creature that we see, and then we have ciliates, a variety of protozoans, ciliates, amoeba, and flagellates. Flagellates are the little sort of roundish organisms moving very quickly, and obviously bacteria and fungi. So we have a very full, we're seeing high quality, consistent high quality composts and teas. But we really have to monitor this, and this is the key, because unless we monitor this, we're not necessarily applying a valuable tea. We could just as well be applying muddy water.
T, you've shown us how to make a compost tea. Is there any trick to getting it out into the landscape?
Well, it's a good question, Eric. And in fact, what you have to remember when you're applying a compost tea is that you're applying a living material.
Right.
It's not like applying fertilizer or some type of an inert ingredient. You're applying living organisms. So it's important to apply it at a very low pressure.
Right.
So it's analogous to, you know, these little organisms, bacteria, fungi, and protozoans. They can, if they hit a leaf of grass at, you know, 100 psi, it's like you or me hitting a brick wall.
Right.
So
right.
you have to always keep in mind that it's about getting that living material into the soil in big droplets and letting it sink into the soil. And also, you want to apply it as quickly as possible, because once you take the aeration off of the material, it needs to get put out so it doesn't go anaerobic.
Yeah.
You want to get it into the soil as quickly as possible.
Right, so we have to handle it with care. You know, like
That's
you said,
right.
these are living organisms. Those
That's right.
cells are sensitive, and they can easily be damaged. And of course, we get none of the beneficial effects if we blast it out with a high pressure sprayer.
Right. So as we've talked about, you want to verify that you're getting the material that you should be, and that you then get it from point A to point B safely.
Right.
Yeah.
T, as we're wrapping up today, and this has been such a wonderful opportunity to speak with someone who's so knowledgeable on this subject matter, what kind of advice would you have for home gardeners who are looking at improving the microbiology of their soil?
Well, again, I think that everything we've talked about here today, a lot of it is scientific, but a lot of it's also practical in terms of what you can do.
Yeah.
And looking at what's underneath the surface. You know, if you see coloration that's not what would you like, that doesn't seem to be the right thing, well, dig a hole and look at what kind of root growth do you have. See what's going on beneath the surface of the soil.
Yeah.
And yeah, compost is an excellent source. Good compost with the right ingredients is an excellent amendment. Again, if you need to improve drainage or any other aspect, well, then you need to focus on that as well. But it's collect the right information and then make an educated decision as to what that landscape needs.
It's great advice, Steve. Thank you so much for being with us. We've learned so much.
Thanks so much, Eric. It's been a pleasure.
Another show, another amazing garden. We hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as we've enjoyed producing it. If you watch the show, you know we travel the country visiting beautiful gardens. Well, we have a surprise in store for several in the audience. To learn more about the surprise, visit our website at GardenSMART.com.
The Safer brand organic lawn care program makes house calls. By ordering online, the lawn you want can be delivered right to your door. The Safer brand organic lawn care program is a proud sponsor of public television and GardenSMART.
I should be arrested for crimes against potted plant kind. My house is where plants came to die.
Miracle Grow potting mix is designed to help grow big, beautiful plants. Everyone grows with Miracle Grow.
Hey there, little Red Riding Hood. You sure are looking good.
There's so much fascinating science behind building great garden soil, but there are also some very simple and practical things that you can do at home to improve the soil your plants grow in. If you have questions about anything you've seen today, visit us on the web at GardenSMART.com. Remember, even if you're a master gardener, there's always more to learn. So join us next week for more great gardening tips and ideas as we garden smart.